Hi guys, if you've seen me before, welcome back. If you haven't, hello, my name is Liv. I'm an amputee from trauma. I made this channel to talk about that and everything that goes with it. If that sounds interesting to you, I hope you hit subscribe down below. Today, I'm super psyched because we're going to be talking about 5 things that I learned attending a virtual amputee conference. I did a video recently, I'll pop it up over there, where I talked about how the pandemic has allowed me to participate in the Amputee Coalition's national conference. It went entirely digital this year. I've never been able to attend before. And this event was this past week and weekend. So I wanted to share some of the things that I learned and experienced through this. If at any point you want to jump to a certain point in the video, the timestamps will be down below. I'll try to do that for every video I have because I can be quite talkative. So for starters, the Amputee Coalition literally exists to help amputees with everything, with dealing with their lives, with prosthetic care, with advocacy. It's pretty awesome. I was previously a certified peer visitor with them, and I need to get that reauthorized, basically. So the national conference is put on by them, who could be more perfect, and it's very much the embodiments of everything that they do. I don't know what the in-person conference is like, but the online one was really awesome. They had sort of a simulated exhibit hall where you could go and see all different types of manufacturers. They had sessions where you could gather and talk, and sessions where you could listen to experts, and opportunities to ask questions along the way at every point and have them addressed by the experts. That was truly fantastic. They also had ways that you could connect with each other. You could list your different social media, and you could literally go to the president of a prosthetics manufacturing company and add them as a connection, which is not something I could ever have thought of having the opportunity to do before. All of this said, the biggest thing that first stood out to me, and the one thing that did make me long to do this in person, was the community. Community is huge. Community is huge with everything in life. I mean, I'm sure that seems obvious. I have different communities in my life. Gym community, cycling community, even a community based around my favorite band. But there's something really special about being surrounded by people that you share something with that is normally the one thing that sets you apart from everyone else you're around. I'm sure you have something in your life like that too. And for me, the feeling of that community was immense and impactful. It made me long for the opportunity to roam the halls with different amputees and make friends and go for coffees together or meet on the way to this class and talk outside of that class and discuss different things that we found and make friends that I'd look forward to seeing next year. I did do that, but I feel like the impact of it in person would be huge. They did have networking opportunities. So we'd have classes and sessions throughout the day, and then they would have 2 hours of networking. And that was absolutely my favorite part. I loved talking with other amputees. They had like a little virtual table set up so you could pop into different tables and see who was there. Really, I just clicked blindly and was like, that one has a seat. And then you would pop in and give them your little spiel. Hey, I'm Liv. I lost my leg like this. And then there'd be like 5 other people put up their hand like, I lost my right leg too. I gained so much from being able to share with people who have the same amputation as me, who would share their stories. And at times I could say, oh, I do that too, or I've done that before, or I didn't know you could use that for that. There is so much wealth of knowledge in these survivors. And it's an amazing thing to access, an amazing community. And it also highlighted something else for me. Every amputee is different. I mean that so much. I cannot stress this enough. Every amputee is different. Sure, you have dramatic things like this is an arm amputee, this is a leg amputee, this is a finger amputee. Sure, you have that. But even people with the exact same amputation from the exact same thing, 2 people with the same left above knee amputation from a car accident will have a totally different experience. I have to say this because I don't know if everyone is aware of this and is aware of how challenging this makes addressing one's medical needs. Imagine if every single time you got a new pair of shoes, you had to go and get a prescription from your general practitioner. Then you had to go to your shoe specialist with that prescription and get them to manufacture shoes for you from scratch. Sure, they can buy the sole of the shoe pre-made and tailor it, but the rest of it is 100% custom. And here's the kicker. It's also carbon fiber, so it's going to be hard as a rock and it better fit perfectly or it's going to hurt like hell. Also, you can't break them in, and this is the only pair of shoes that you get to do everything. You might think that you see celebrity amputees who have bunches of legs. Maybe you've seen that. I don't. Most people don't. I had to fight to get my running leg donated. Insurance only covered one foot, and barely. I went through 3 stages of denials to get that. That's a story for another time. There isn't really any such thing as out of the box for amputees or one size fits all. What I do and what fits me and what has been tailored to me and the unique places that I take pressure in my socket. We'll get into that another time too. All of those things are 100% unique to me, and there is no way that it can be replicated for anyone else. No other amputee, even if they have the exact same length of residual limb as mine, no other amputee can wear my leg. They cannot put on my socket. They will damage themselves. All of that truly hit me home so hard as I listened to every amputee talking at this conference, as we sat in the networking and shared with each other how many different ways that people had to learn to manage their lives as an amputee. How there were people who had the same amputation level as mine, who could run marathons with no issue. And then there were others who could barely wear their leg the whole day. Which brings me to the third thing that stood out for me. The first 10 years are the hardest. Okay, now granted, that was for me. The first 10 years were the hardest for me. For another amputee, the first 2 years might be the hardest. The first 1 year, if they're lucky. For some, it might be 20. Oh gosh, I hope not. But for me, the first 10 years were the hardest. There are a lot of things that I don't entirely remember because they were so painful that I blocked them out. It wasn't always hard, but there were times that it was excruciating. On a pain scale, which I use often, I love using a pain scale, I had an 8 out of 10 pain and higher pretty often. And 6 and up was incredibly common. By contrast, I'd say that now I experience an 8 out of 10 maybe once a year, once every 2 years. And that's a level of pain that becomes debilitating, that all I can focus on is that. I have to heal. I can't do anything else. I still do get a 6 out of 10 a couple times a year, but that's not a debilitating level. I can still function. It's just going to be really painful and hard. The reasons for this varied from me being a burn victim and my stump skin being burnt and not being able to handle the pressure of prosthetics, learning different ways to fit the prosthetic that didn't exacerbate certain issues that were extremely painful and damaging, and learning how to address those issues when they occurred so that I minimize the amount of time that I'm down or in pain. Just like I mentioned at the start of this channel, when I had to go into wheelchair time at the start of the pandemic, that was my way of addressing something before it got to a terrible point. So when I was listening to people's stories in the networking and actually in the breakouts and the different sessions that we did, my heart went out to them so much. It is so hard, those first whatever many years as an amputee. If you know an amputee, if you are an amputee, be empathetic to yourself. Know that it's gonna get better. As I listened to all these people, I realized that I don't have to deal with most of this stuff because I'm so far from amputation. Even though I'm an amputee from trauma, and even though I might have to have a revision at some point. A revision is when you have to get your amputation redone if there's an issue that has to be fixed. So I feel seasoned. I feel wiser, harder, more attuned to my body. I don't have to deal with this stuff as much anymore. I know how to address things. If you are a new amputee, if you know a new amputee, be patient. It will seem like a long time, and maybe you freaked out when I said 10 years. If someone had told me back then it'll be 10 years until you're at a better place, I would have had a freak out. I would have definitely freaked out. But I never really thought of it as, oh, I hit the 10-year mark, everything's better now. It's more that I had more significant upheaval and issues in my leg wearing process in the first 10 years. And now I have a great deal more stability. It will keep getting better. It definitely will. After the first year, it was better. After the second year, it was better. It'll keep getting better. But at the point that I'm at now, there are many things in this conference that I didn't have to deal with. And I realized how incredibly valuable this experience, this conference was to a new amputee. I cannot encourage you enough. If you cannot afford it, reach out to them. And I believe they might have some ways to help you afford it. If you are a new amputee, if you know anyone who is an amputee at any stage, let them know about the Amputee Coalition National Conference. If I had had access to something like this in my first 10 years of being an amputee, that would have been pretty amazing. Instead, I spent 20 years figuring out a lot of this on my own, which is fine. Many amputees will have to do a lot of this on their own anyways, but the tips, the company, and the wisdom that was accessible at this conference is invaluable. Which brings me to my next point. You have to be your own expert. This was such an incredible opportunity to be able to sit in on sessions with medical experts and prosthetics developers, hear about their products and hear about their techniques at dealing with stuff and different kind of surgeries and and things like that. But it really struck me how insane it is that here we are hearing about all these different products and all these different medical procedures from experts. And we have to know all this stuff because we do. We have to be the experts because every amputation is different. One medical procedure and one type of prosthetic device will not work for everyone. You have to know your body. You have to know what it likes, what it can handle. You have to listen to yourself if you're in pain. If your prosthetist gives you something and it hurts, you have to tell them about it. And you need to learn about your body and what kind of pain is the pain that you'll get used to, and is your body becoming accustomed to something, and what kind of pain is damage. It's a weird distinction, but you have to learn this about yourself. You have to be your own expert, not just in how your body functions, but also in what prosthetics you like, how you react to different chemicals, how much you can handle with walking and being active in different temperatures, what equipment you need around you. In my case, it took a long time to get that information, but if I'd had something like this accessible to me, I feel like I might have become an expert faster. And this brings me to my final point. We have access to so much here. Back when I lost my leg in 1999, we didn't have access to all this stuff. I learned things from my prosthetist and from trial and error and asking the one amputee that I knew who had also been injured in a bombing a year before me. There wasn't this enormous network of peers and support groups and resources and all that. This is incredible, and it is also rare. Take advantage of this, learn your system, become an expert in everything that you can about this. And unfortunately, you also have to become an expert in healthcare and how to get this stuff approved, because that's very hard and it's very easy for insurance to deny you. I've had it happen so many times. At the same time, the access that we have in this country to prosthetic care at all is amazing. Don't be afraid to take advantage of it. Take advantage of everything you can. Go to the Amputee Coalition website, look through all of their resources. The World Health Organization estimates that there are 30 million people in the world that need prosthetic and orthotic devices. And yet 75% of developing countries don't have any sort of prosthetics or orthotics training programs in place. We have so many more options, so much more opportunity for gaining access to the right equipment, finding people who are trained in facilitating this, and finding assistance, even though we may have to jump through insurance hoops to make it happen. Interestingly, there was even a class on that, on how to deal with insurance and how the federal government works with getting your needs met as an amputee. All in all, this was an incredible opportunity. I'm so glad that I got to do this. I learned so much. I gained a wealth of information. I made so many different connections, both with amputees and with people who are creating products to help us. And I'm definitely going to try go in the future. I can't wait for the opportunity to meet these people in person, to ask the burning questions that I have in person, and to mess with products in person too. That would have been fun, messing with feet and stuff like that. As I've mentioned, if you are an amputee, if you know an amputee, I encourage you to visit the Amputee Coalition website, and I really encourage you to attend the National Convention next year. Maybe I'll see you there. Come say hi. If you know an amputee in your life or someone with limb difference, I hope you share this information with them. If you like this video, if you found it fun, interesting, helpful, or anything like that, I do hope that you will give it a thumbs up and stick around and subscribe down below. Click that notification bell so you hear about all my other videos as soon as they're released. Wherever you are, I hope you're having the best day that you possibly can. Be kind to the people around you. And thanks for hanging out.